crazy that you guys want this stuff. It's disgusting. I am extremely excited to announce my partnership with Ketone IQ. You guys have seen me knocking back these shots in the last couple of videos, but I'm sure many of you or most of you have no idea what Ketone IQ is, so I'm gonna explain how it works. So first off, what are ketones? Ketones are a natural form of fat that are produced in the liver when the body is in a low carb state. On a normal diet, when you're ingesting carbohydrate and you have muscle glycogen available, your body will create energy from glucose and a little bit by oxidizing fat. When you are in a low carb state, let's say at the end of an Ironman or a long endurance event, or you've been fasting, or you're on a ketogenic diet, your body will produce ketones in the liver. Ketones are the most rapid energy source from fat. They're super easily absorbed by the muscles, the heart, and the brain. It was previously impossible to utilize on a quote-unquote normal diet where you're ingesting carbohydrate and you have muscle glycogen available. In 2016, they figured out how to make exogenous ketones made in a lab outside of the body that you can then ingest. So for the first time in human history, we are now able to dual fuel with glucose and ketones. So you're still able to fuel with carbohydrates and glucose like normal, but you can fill in all the rest of the gaps and potentially spare glycogen with ketones. I've been using these for about 4 or 5 weeks now, basically the entirety of the season so far. My energy levels are way more consistent when I run off the bike. I feel way better, bonk way less. Overall, I've just been feeling good. You can use a 20% discount code ARICLOW to get yourself a box or multiple. I don't get commission on this. This is just for you guys. Definitely go and try it out. I am a huge proponent of this product. And lastly, I mean, thank you to Ketone IQ for supporting my training and supporting the channel. I've definitely been strugg prone it for a while, and I'm really happy to have a partner on board to support me while I continue to chase my dreams. So go get yourself a box. All right, guys, 4K in the books. We're taking a little down swim week after 3 weeks averaging 27,000 yards. So got to reap the benefits, you know. First things first, protein. Enjoy this footage of me flip turning. Today's set initially was supposed to be 12 by 150 on 215, aiming for 152 or so, maybe 154, 115, 116. But yesterday I got on the phone with Greg Harper, who world-class butterflyer back in the day, and not that that's, you know, necessary for me to take your advice, but very, very good swimmer. He just gave me a lot of advice on different things to try, one of which being just shorten the reps. Do a lot of crazy short reps so that you can amass a lot more time swimming faster, even on a similar interval. So instead of 12 by 150 today, I changed the set to... And today we have another workout with Spencer, which is great because it is just so nice to work out with someone. First, we have to eat some food and get on the bike for an easy hour. I just can't stop drinking these Ketone IQs. I don't even mind the taste anymore. It's kind of tasty. Guys, there's just nothing like a cold leftover chicken tender before you get on the bike. Folks, it's Spro number 4. I'm trying to talk. You scared him away. Now the video's not funny without a cat in it. You just have to pick up the cat. Guys, it is Spro number 4 of the day. Just knocked out the bike, and we're getting ready to go to the track, meet Allie and Spencer for a workout. You want some?
You want some, Luca?
You want some? Guys, after last week's workout went so well, I decided I have to walk down to the corner store and get myself another Red Bull just to recreate the magic. So... this is my fourth, probably final Ketone IQ of the day. You already know earlier in the video what Ketone IQ is all about. I'm gonna need all the help I can get on my way to attempting to break 4 minutes in the mile. Step 1, do this workout. And step 2 is, I haven't gone that far. Take another Ketone IQ probably.
Step 3 is do it.
Stop filming, that's step 3.
All right.
All right, that's good. You haven't stopped, have you? No!
Hey, Endurance Unhinged podcast coming soon.
Episode 1 coming 2025.
It's gonna be intense. We're basically gonna break down the barriers. We're gonna break down the gatekeepers of the sport and actually tell you what runners really are. They're all. That's what I was gonna say. Oh. Quaint Friend Track Club. Oh wow, look at this. Boom, boom. Oh my God, don't know who to film.
I have some unfinished business on the track. I ran 4:01.7 during a COVID time trial, and that is the closest I've gotten to the elusive sub-4 minute barrier. But I'm gonna find out this year if I can do it off of triathlon training. And that starts with 10 by 200, aiming for 29 point something seconds a piece.
You just look like a robot.
Get out of the lane one.
Anything to say, Ari?
That's 7 200s. I do have super spikes on, but all of them have been under 30. I think that's more sub 3200s than I've run in half 2 years.
Wow.
It's amazing that that is just there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working hard, don't get me wrong, but
Oh, guy who kicks on the last rep, huh?
oh yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm trying to break 4 minutes in the mile this year on triathlon training. This is not going to be an easy feat, and for the last 2 years, half marathon off the bike has been the focus of my running, and I have gotten slower as far as leg speed. I've been very strong. You know, I feel like I have had to become a more efficient runner. Obviously, I've been doing a lot lower volume, but the paces and the distances are different. And I even released a video about 1.5 years ago about how I suck at running. But a couple weeks ago, I did a workout with Spencer, 10 by 400, and we averaged 64, and I felt so good. My thought after that was I haven't felt this good since I ran 7:51 for 3K and nearly broke 4 for the mile. And I've wanted to I've thought that maybe in a couple years I'll take a couple months off triathlon, train specifically to run a mile and try to break 4, because it's a life goal of mine. And I'm definitely not ready to just, you know, give up on it. But after that workout, I started to wonder if maybe I'm able to do it on triathlon training. If I don't need to stop the swim and the bike, and I can just kind of do it on my way to training for 70.3s. I thought it would be useful to go back and look at what I did leading up to running 401 in June 2020. So I went back through my training log. I didn't have a GPS watch. I didn't have Strava back then. It was all on a website called Running to Win, where I wrote all my comments on there and just logged everything manually. So I went back through and I made this little PowerPoint kind of summarizing the training that I did leading up to there. So March 2020, first 10 or so days of March. So for some context, I ran 7:51 for 3K indoors in February, which gave me the 17th fastest time in the NCAA over 3,000. Top 16 make the NCAA indoor championship meet, which I believe started on March 12th or March 13th. I forget exactly. So since I was 17th, normally I wouldn't go, but every year people decide to not run the 3K if they made it in a different event. So I kept training as if I was going to race. And in fact, the week of, one of my friends texted me saying, who was I think 8th or 9th on the 3K list, texted me saying that he wasn't going to be able to go. And then I knew another athlete was scratching. So I was pretty sure that some point in the week I'd get the call and we'd book a plane ticket and go to the NCAA championship. And then of course on March 12th, the entire world got canceled. There were people already at the meet who were told that the meet wasn't going on and had to go home. The rest of my collegiate career was canceled. So I didn't log for 11 days. I'm pretty sure I ran at least a little bit, but I didn't log any of it. This was my log entry. So I withdrew from, I dropped out of grad school, as I do have my undergraduate degree. I was in grad school at the time, but wasn't liking it. And I had a job offer lined up for the summer. So I decided I would just take that. Said my goals, if there were a track season, were 345, 1500, which is a little bit slower. 342, 1500 is about sub-4. Under 1340 for 5K. Spoiler alert, there didn't end up being a track season. I didn't really do any races that summer, and then I got into triathlon. So for the rest of March, I just did easy mileage and strides and no intensity. So for April, I averaged 78 miles a week. My peak week was 84 miles, and I took 2 days off that entire month, 2 days entirely off. And I did 4 sessions. 2 of them were hilly fartleks, so I think the maximum rep length on those was like 5 minutes, maybe, something like that. So between 1 minute reps to 5 minute reps on fairly short rest. And I categorized those as threshold efforts. On April 22nd, I did an 8-mile tempo at 5:25 pace, and then randomly the next day also felt really good and was just going out for a normal training run, but ended up doing a 9.5 mile tempo at 5:22 mile average. So those were on back-to-back days, but those were all of the sessions I did in April. So just threshold and tempo stimulus. In May, I averaged 85 miles a week with a peak mileage of 98 miles, and also took 2 days off in the entire month. I did 5 sessions. The first one was 5 by 10 minutes on a flat rail trail. I didn't write down the pace I actually ran, so I think somewhere in the tempo threshold range, which for me probably was somewhere in between 5:10 and 5:30 for those reps. And then a couple days later, I did a flat 8-mile threshold run at 5:05 per mile. Following week, the workout was a 4-mile, I call it tempo on the track, but that is a threshold effort. Averaging 4:48 per mile for the 4 miles, and then 8 by 200 starting at 30 and getting down to 27. And so that on May 13th, that is the first time I touched the track and did any sort of high-end work. The following week, I did another flat 8-mile tempo run or threshold run at 5:07 mile average. And then the following week, the second time I touched the track was 3 sets of 200, 200, 400 with 200 jog and 400 between sets. The first one at 64 second pace, then 62 second pace, then 60 second pace on the last one. And then June, which was the month I did the time trial, I averaged 62 miles a week going up to the time trial, and 85 miles was my highest week. I took 1 day off between the first day of June and this time trial. And I did, I'll say 4 or 5 sessions. There are 6 listed here, but one of them is the time trial itself, and one before on June 16th is just a 4x200 that I just sort of a leg spinner. So I started the month off with 10 by 200 starting at 31, getting down to 28. So that is, a race pace set. A couple days later, I did a hilly 7-mile threshold run, averaging 5:12. And then a couple days after that was another race pace session where I went 400, 1 minute rest, 800, 2 minute rest, 400, where I went 59 for the 400, 203 for the 800, and then 55 for the final 400. So that was the last real race pace set. A couple days after that was 4x5 minutes at threshold, and then again just that leg spinner 4x200 at 30. And then on June 18th, 1 mile time trial in 4:01.7 on my high school track. And I had one friend pace me through 1,000, and another friend hop in at 800 to pace for the second half of the race. But otherwise, it was just me. To summarize, the length of the block was 88 days or 12 and a half weeks from the start, mid-March when I started training again, all the way up till the time trial. I averaged 70 miles a week, and again, my peak week in May was 98 miles. I took 5 days off total, and I did 14 sessions that I would categorize as intensity sessions. 3 of them were sort of tempo stimulus, 8 of them were threshold, and 5, and again, this includes that 4x200, so maybe we can say it was 13 sessions total and 4 high-end, slash race pace sessions. So that's really not very much. I essentially hit the track 4 times. It was mostly tempo and threshold. That math doesn't work out. Yeah, that math doesn't make sense. I don't know how I said 14 sessions. Oh, because I double counted, because some of them were tempo slash threshold. So there were 14 sessions, but I'm double counting the ones that I said were both tempo and threshold. But yeah, not very much race pace running. I didn't include long runs, which I did most weeks, not every week, but because sometimes I just didn't feel like it. I was really just training how I felt each day. I wasn't being coached. I was just kind of making it up on the fly. And some weeks I just didn't feel like doing a long run, so I would run 10 to 12 miles. But other weeks I would just run 15 to 18 miles with whoever was long running that week. Usually it wasn't very hard. It was just kind of getting time on feet. I didn't include what I would now call LT1 or upper aerobic work because I didn't really schedule those into training. It wasn't uncommon for me to just finish a training run or do an entire training run at 6-minute pace or kind of descend down into the 540s. But that was, again, not scheduled. I just kind of did it by feel. So there was a decent amount of upper aerobic work in there, just sprinkled in. And I was doing strides a lot. I was doing, flat strides pretty much every Monday. Sometimes I would do uphill strides, like more like sprints after runs. And sometimes I would do like hard 150s on the track. But I didn't count those as intensity sessions. But I was doing those very consistently to maintain sort of biomechanical efficiency. It helps with neuromuscular recruitment. And I think it allowed me to keep leg speed without hitting the track all the time. What will change this time? Well, first off, we need some context is that this 401 was coming off of a 4.5-year collegiate track career where I was doing a lot of high-end work pretty regularly versus now this attempt will come off of 2 years of half iron distance triathlon training, which is of course way less high-end work. So there might be a bit more VO2 max and high-end work necessary in this block than the last one to get into that fitness required. Like I said, my peak mileage was 98 miles, and that entire week would have taken around 11 hours at most. And there were only 2 intensity sessions. I ended up averaging just over 1 intensity session a week. So really not that much. It was mostly just easy mileage and strides. And my peak volume already this year is 22 hours with 6 intensity sessions. So way more volume, almost double. There might be more than double the volume and almost 3 times as much intensity across the disciplines. Important to note, maybe I can pull up a picture here. I am 15 pounds heavier now than I was during that attempt. I was 150 pounds at that point in my running career. Sometimes I would finish a run, and sort of be a little dehydrated, get on the scale, and I'd be like 147, 148. I was skinny. And I'm 165 now because obviously with the biking requires a bit more muscles. I've gained some muscles on my legs, and swimming I've gained a lot of upper body muscle. So 15 pounds is a lot to carry around. I'm not sure how much that will factor in, but I'm 15 pounds heavier now. So that's important to note. But to my advantage, when I did that attempt, I was in normal spikes, same you would have worn for most of the last several decades. But this time around, we have super spikes. So that attempt was just around when carbon shoes on the roads were becoming a factor, and they hadn't come out with super spikes yet. For example, the Nike Dragonfly, which is the spike that I have. So this time, theoretically, could be a couple seconds advantage. So theoretically, all I have to do is get into the same fitness I was in when I ran 4:01, and the shoes might do the rest of the work. Who knows? So is this the best training you could do for 70.3 to optimize a half marathon off the bike? Probably not, but I am a professional YouTuber, so I'm gonna do whatever I want. And if I give up 30 seconds or a minute on my run off the bike, you know, that's fine. And if I lose a race on the run this year, that's best case scenario, because that means I was in it after the swim and bike. So I'm not changing the swim and bike at all. I'm still going to train the swim and bike as if I am training solely for a 70.3, but I'm handling fatigue better now that I'm sort of close to 2 years into triathlon. So I believe I have the ability to train to get into 4-minute shape, and time will tell. I'm thinking the first attempt will probably be in May. So I have a lot of time to get the fitness for that and hopefully just stay healthy, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll have a couple more videos on this to see how I'm progressing towards the goal, but that's that's the basic. The running training is not going to be that different, you know, because like I said before, I did a lot of threshold, a lot of tempo, and a little bit of track work, and I'm basically going to do the same thing this time around. So stay tuned. 359 project. We're going to try to do it this year.